The moving truck hadn't even finished unloading when the police showed up. That should have been my first warning. Not the curtains twitching across the street. Not the HOA violation notice taped to our front door before we had even unpacked a single box. Not even the woman standing at the end of our driveway like she was personally offended by our existence. No, it was a police cruiser rolling slowly down Maple Creek Drive at exactly 2:14 p.m. No sirens, no lights, just slow, watching, like someone had already decided we were trouble. My name is Marcus Bennett. 3 days earlier, my wife Elena and I had signed the papers on what we thought was our forever home. A 2-story brick house in a quiet neighborhood outside Dallas. Tree-lined sidewalks, good schools, safe streets, the kind of place where kids rode bikes after dinner and neighbors smiled over perfectly trimmed hedges. Perfect for our daughter, Sophie. Perfect for starting over. That was the dream. The dream lasted about 6 hours. I was carrying a box labeled kitchen, fragile when I noticed her, standing at the edge of our driveway, arms crossed, sunglasses on, perfectly styled blonde hair that looked like it hadn't moved in 10 years, clipboard tucked under one arm like it was a weapon, and that expression, that specific look some people have when they've already decided they hate you, and they are just waiting for proof they are right. Karen, though technically her name was Linda Harper, president of the Maple Creek Homeowners Association, neighborhood self-appointed queen, professional expert in making simple things miserable. She didn't say hello, didn't introduce herself, didn't welcome us. She just stared at the moving truck like it had committed a felony. "You're blocking the street," she said. I set the box down slowly. "Hi to you, too." Nothing. No smile. No reaction. Just judgment. "Moving vehicles require pre-approval by the HOA," she said, flipping through her clipboard. "You did not submit a transport request." I blinked. "A transport request?" She nodded. Section 4, subsection B, temporary commercial obstruction. I looked at the truck, then at her, then back at the truck, trying to figure out if this was real life. "It's a moving truck," I said. "Yes." "We're moving in." "I'm aware." I stared at her. There was a long pause, mostly because I was giving reality one last chance to fix itself. "Well," I said finally, "usually when people buy a house, they bring their stuff with them." Her lips tightened, slightly, which, for people like her, was basically screaming. "You'll also need to repaint your mailbox." I turned and looked at the mailbox. Brown, wooden, standing there minding its own business. Completely normal. What's wrong with it? It's the wrong shade of brown. I laughed, actually laughed, because I genuinely thought she had to be joking. That was mistake number 1, because Karen did not like being laughed at. "I'm not joking," she said sharply. "This community maintains standards." At that exact moment, Elena stepped outside holding Sophie's backpack. She took one look at Linda and immediately understood everything. That's marriage. You can read an entire disaster from across the yard. "Everything okay?" she asked. I smiled. "Oh, yay. Apparently we're violating mailbox law." Elena looked at Linda, then at the mailbox, then back at me. "Which part?" "Existing while brown." I love that woman. Karen did not. She ignored the joke completely. "Your trash bins are also visible from the street," she said. "They are empty," Elena replied. "That's not the point." Of course it wasn't, because with people like Linda, it never is. The point was never the mailbox, or the bins, or the truck. The point was power. Always power. That was when a man from the house next door walked over. Tall, mid-40s, tired eyes, coffee mug in hand, and the expression of someone who had watched this exact scene too many times. "Don't mind Linda," he said quietly. "She does this to everyone." Karen turned instantly. "Tom, this doesn't concern you." Tom gave a small smile. "It usually doesn't stop you." I liked him immediately. Karen clearly did not. She adjusted her sunglasses like they were part of her authority. "Just make sure your family understands the rules," she said. "This neighborhood has standards." Then she turned and walked away, slowly, like she expected dramatic music to follow her. Honestly, she probably did. Tom waited until she was gone before speaking again. "Welcome to Maple Creek," he said. I rubbed the back of my neck. "Please tell me she's not like that all the time." He laughed, the kind of laugh people use when the truth is too depressing. "She's worse." Fantastic. That evening, after the movers left and Sophie finally fell asleep, I found a letter, taped neatly to our front door like some kind of suburban ransom note. HOA violation notice. Violation number 1, unauthorized commercial moving vehicle. Violation number 2, visible refuse containers. Violation number 3, exterior non-compliant mailbox color. Fine pending review. Dated today. Because apparently Linda believed in speed-running tyranny. I stared at it for a long moment, then handed it to Elena. She read it once, twice, then looked up slowly. "She's serious." "Oh, she's very serious." Elena folded the paper carefully. Too carefully. That calm. That quiet. I knew that version of my wife. That was the dangerous version. "Good," she said. I frowned. "Good." She nodded. If this is how she starts, I want to see how she handles losing. I should have known right then this wasn't going to stay small, because Elena didn't bluff, and Linda definitely didn't back down. That combination, that was weather warning territory. The next morning, I met the people across the street. New neighbors, too. Javier and Rosa Martinez. Young couple. 2 kids. Friendly. Exhausted. Still unpacking. The kind of people who apologize for their dog barking once. Meaning, obviously, Linda was going to hate them. Javier was setting up a grill in the driveway when I walked over. "Barbecue this weekend," he said with a smile, trying to meet the neighbors before the HOA declares war. I laughed. Too late. She already cited my mailbox. He nodded like that made perfect sense. Yeah, she told Rosa our garden hose was visually aggressive. I stopped walking. "Your hose?" He nodded. Apparently blue is confrontational. I stared at him, then laughed so hard I had to lean against the fence. That's when Linda appeared again. Because of course she did. Like she had some kind of HOA villain radar. She stood at the sidewalk, staring at Javier's grill like it was a crime scene. "Outdoor cooking requires prior approval," she said. Javier blinked. "It's a barbecue." She nodded. "Yes, which requires authorization." Rosa stepped outside holding lemonade. She looked at Linda, then at us, then quietly said, "Does she recharge at night or is this natural?" I nearly choked. Tom, from next door, laughed loud enough for God to hear it. Linda's face turned a dangerous shade of controlled rage. "This neighborhood," she said coldly, "will not tolerate disrespect." Javier smiled politely. "Then you're gonna have a hard week." And that was the exact moment she decided to call 911. By sunset, she would regret it. Deeply, publicly, and permanently. Saturday afternoon arrived with sunshine, loud laughter, and the smell of grilled meat floating through Maple Creek like an act of rebellion. Honestly, it was the nicest the neighborhood had felt since we moved in. Javier Martinez stood in his driveway wearing an apron that said "Kiss the Cook or Leave," flipping burgers like he was hosting the Super Bowl. Rosa had folding tables set up with chips, drinks, homemade salsa, and enough food to feed a small army. Their 2 kids were chasing Sophie across 3 front yards like they had known each other for years instead of 2 days. Tom was leaning against his mailbox with a drink in one hand and the expression of a man watching a storm form in the distance. "This is either going to be a great night," he said, "or the beginning of a neighborhood civil war." I took a sip of lemonade. With Linda, probably both. He nodded. Definitely both. The thing about normal people is we assume everyone wants peace. People like Linda prove otherwise. Because peace means nobody's in charge. And she needed to be in charge. Always. Javier waved me over. "Marcus, tell me honestly, too much seasoning or not enough?" I looked at the grill. Smoke, chicken, steak, corn, something wrapped in foil that looked illegal in at least 3 states. "I'd trust you with my financial future," I said. He smiled proudly. Rosa rolled her eyes. "Don't encourage him," she said. "He's been acting like he's opening a restaurant." "He is," Tom said. "It's called Linda's Worst Nightmare." That got the biggest laugh of the afternoon, which, Unfortunately, may have summoned her like some kind of HOA demon, because right on cue, she appeared, Linda Harper, walking down the sidewalk in pressed white pants and enough attitude to power a small city, clipboard in hand, phone already out, sunglasses on, like she was arriving to shut down an international crime ring instead of suburban barbecue. The laughter faded almost instantly. Music kept playing softly. Kids kept running. But every adult on that driveway noticed her, and every adult knew trouble had just clocked in for work. She stopped at the edge of Javier's driveway, looked at the grill, then at the folding chairs, then at the children laughing. Like happiness itself was a zoning violation. This gathering isn't authorized. Javier didn't even turn around. He flipped a burger. Hi, Linda. Want a plate? That was mistake number one. Offering kindness to someone who viewed it as surrender. She stepped forward. No, I want compliance. Rosa crossed her arms. With what exactly? Linda opened her clipboard dramatically. I swear she practiced that move in a mirror. Violation 1, she said. Unregistered social gathering exceeding approved guest limits. Tom whispered to me. She says guest limits like we're running a casino. I almost laughed. Almost. Violation 2, Linda continued. Improper use of driveway space for commercial-style food preparation. Javier looked at the grill, then at her. It's burgers. That's not the point. Of course it wasn't, because with Linda, the point was never the point. The point was control. Always. Violation 3, she said, louder now. Excessive noise disturbing the peace of the community. Rosa blinked. Our kids are playing tag. Yes. That's the noise. Yes. Tom raised his hand like he was in school. Quick question. Are children still legally allowed to exist here, or did the HOA vote that out too? I had to turn away so she wouldn't see me laughing. Linda, however, looked like she was preparing to file paperwork against Oxygen. This neighborhood maintains standards, she snapped. Javier finally turned around. Calm, polite, dangerously calm. And this neighborhood also has people, he said. People who eat food and talk to neighbors. Linda stepped closer. People who respect rules do. Rosa folded her arms tighter. We just moved in. We're introducing ourselves. Linda nodded once. Cold, sharp. Then let me introduce myself clearly. She pulled out her phone, unlocked it, and started dialing. I frowned. You're not serious. She didn't even look at me. Oh, I'm very serious. Javier lowered the spatula. Who are you calling? Linda looked him dead in the eye. 911. Silence. Actual silence. Even the kids slowed down. Even the grill seemed offended. Tom muttered under his breath. Oh, she finally did it. Rosa stepped forward. You're calling the police because of a barbecue. Linda raised one finger like she needed courtroom silence. Yes, she said. I am reporting a public disturbance, an authorized gathering, and suspicious activity. I stared at her. Suspicious activity. She nodded. Yes. Javier spread his arms. Which part is suspicious? The ribs. She ignored him and spoke into the phone. Hello. Yes, I'd like to report a disturbance at Maple Creek Drive. Loud individuals, multiple unknown visitors, unsafe behavior, and refusal to comply with neighborhood authority. Neighborhood authority, like she was reporting to the governor. I looked at Tom. She's done this before, hasn't she? He nodded, slowly. Yep. Last year she called because someone parked a boat too close to her azaleas. I blinked. What happened? The boat won. I respected that boat immediately. Linda ended the call and lowered her phone like she had just protected democracy. The police are on their way, she announced. Nobody moved. Nobody packed up. Nobody apologized. Because once someone called the police over grilled chicken, the rules change. Javier calmly put another burger on the grill. Good, he said. Maybe they're hungry. And that was the moment I realized something important. Linda expected fear. She expected people to panic, to fold, to obey. But Javier, he was smiling, and that made her nervous. I could see it. Tiny, but real, because bullies are strongest before someone laughs at them, and weakest right after. 10 minutes later, the police cruiser turned onto our street. Slow, careful, watching. The same cruiser from move-in day. 2 officers stepped out, one older, one younger, both already tired of whatever nonsense they were walking into. They looked at the kids, the grill, the neighbors, the lemonade, then finally, at Linda, standing there like she was waiting for applause. The older officer adjusted his belt. He said, "You called about a disturbance." Linda stepped forward like she had been training for this moment since birth. "Yes, officer. This gathering is violating HOA regulations and creating a public nuisance." The officer looked past her, at Javier, at Rosa, at the grill, then back at her, and very slowly asked, "Is this about a barbecue?" The officer stood there for a moment, looking at the grill, the kids playing, the folding chairs, the paper plates, then back at Linda, still holding her clipboard like it was a badge, still standing like she expected everyone to thank her. He said carefully, "Is this seriously about a family barbecue?" Linda straightened. "It is about repeated violations of community standards, officer, noise complaints, unauthorized guests, obstruction of shared access." Tom muttered beside me, "Shared access to what? Happiness." I nearly laughed. The younger officer definitely did. He turned away fast, pretending to inspect Javier's grill. Very professional. Linda ignored all of us, because Linda only heard herself. "These people," she continued, pointing at Javier and Rosa, "have refused multiple direct HOA instructions. They are creating disorder and encouraging disrespect of neighborhood authority." The older officer looked at Javier. "So, have you threatened anyone?" Javier blinked. "I threatened these burgers with greatness." The younger officer lost a fight and laughed out loud. Even Rosa smiled. Even I smiled. Even the grill seemed proud. Linda did not smile. She looked furious. Because the second people stop taking you seriously, your power starts evaporating. "This is not funny," she snapped. "No," the officer said calmly. "Calling emergency services for non-emergencies isn't funny." That changed everything. You could feel it. The air shifted. Even Linda noticed. "I was reporting suspicious behavior," she said quickly. The officer nodded. "What suspicious behavior?" She opened her mouth, paused, because now she had to say it out loud. And out loud, it sounded ridiculous. "They were," she pointed weakly, "being disruptive. By grilling food." "Yes." "During daylight." "Yes." "At their own home." A pause, smaller this time. "Yes." The officer sighed. The deep kind. The kind people make when they realize paperwork is about to ruin their afternoon. He said, "Do you understand misuse of emergency services is a serious issue?" Linda's confidence cracked for the first time. Just slightly. I was protecting the neighborhood. "No," Tom said from behind me, loud enough for everyone. "You were trying to control it." Silence, because everyone knew he was right. Even Linda. Especially Linda. The officer turned back to her. "We've had multiple prior calls from this address," he said. "That got my attention. Linda's too." He opened a small notepad. Noise complaint over children playing basketball. Suspicious vehicle report for plumber. Public safety concern involving a lemonade stand. I stared. A lemonade stand. Tom nodded. Kid had no permit, apparently. I had to physically step away so I wouldn't laugh in her face. The officer continued. "And last month, a false trespassing report against a dog walker." The younger officer added, "Honestly, dispatch knows your voice." That one hit hard. Even the neighbors made that little sound people make when someone gets socially destroyed in public. Linda's face turned red. Not embarrassed red. Angry red. The dangerous kind. "This neighborhood would collapse without standards," she snapped. Rosa folded her arms. "No, Linda, it would just be quieter." That one almost ended her. She pointed at Rosa, then Javier, then me, like she was trying to nominate us for prison. These people are the problem. The officer's tone changed. Not louder. Worse. Calmer. No. Right now, you are... And that was it. The moment. The one where everyone realized the script had flipped. Karen called the police expecting backup. Instead, she got accountability. He stepped forward. Based on repeated false emergency reports, harassment complaint from multiple residents, and obstruction of lawful peacekeeping. He paused, then said the words nobody thought would actually hear. I'm issuing a formal citation, and you'll need to come with us. Silence. Real silence. Even the kids stopped. Even the birds seemed invested. Linda blinked. Once. Twice. Like her brain had rejected reality. You're arresting me. The officer stayed calm. I'm detaining you pending formal processing. This is absurd. No, Tom said. This is overdue. She turned to the neighborhood like someone might save her. Nobody moved. Nobody defended her. Because fear looks powerful. Until people stop being afraid. The younger officer stepped beside her. Please put the phone down. That's when I noticed she had been clutching it the whole time. Probably ready to call someone. A lawyer. The HOA board. The president of Earth. Didn't matter now. She slowly handed it over. Still stunned. Still trying to understand how this happened. I'll tell you how. Simple. She thought rules made her untouchable. But rules only work when they apply to everyone, including her. As they walked her toward the cruiser, she turned once more. At all of us. At the barbecue. At the neighbors she spent years trying to intimidate. This isn't over, she said. Javier lifted a burger. For you? Probably not. Even the officers smiled. She got into the back seat. Doors shut. And just like that, Maple Creek got quieter, healthier, lighter, like the entire street had been holding its breath for years. And finally exhaled. Tom raised his drink. To unauthorized barbecues. Everyone lifted something. Lemonade, soda, paper plates, a hot dog, whatever mattered. To peace and quiet, Rosa added. And properly aggressive garden hoses, I said. That got the biggest laugh of the day. The police drove away. The sun started setting. The grill kept going. Kids kept playing. Neighbors stayed longer than planned. Because once fear leaves a place, people remember how to belong there again. Elena stood beside me, watching Sophie laugh with the Martinez kids. She leaned against my shoulder. Think she'll be back? She asked. I looked down the street. Quiet now. Peaceful. Normal. Maybe, I said. Then I smiled. But next time, she'll need approval first. And for the first time since we moved in, Maple Creek actually felt like home.